Hello, my name is Dallas Locke and I will be demoing our AR notifications process. This demo will cover the steps performed by the robot, examples of orchestrator queues, and generic business rules involved with this type of process. Just a brief overview of what takes place during this process. The robot reads data from input files, uploads the data to the queue, pulls the same data from the queue, and processes it for each client. And then finally, it sends an in-process notification email to our internal team. Here you see two of our input files. The AR invoice report, which is here, and the AR email report, which is here. Let's focus on the AR invoice report first, and let's go from there, right? So the robot reads the data listed on the report line by line. It focuses on the age column primarily, right, which is this column. If an invoice item has a positive age, then the client project will be flagged for processing, right? So if you see any item with a age over 0, it is then flagged for processing. Vice versa, if an invoice item has a negative age, like the one listed below, it is then skipped by the robot. So the robot does this line by line and then determines which items will be uploaded to the queue, right? So each item added to the queue is grouped by the client and then the project name. So one client can have multiple projects within the queue that contain multiple invoice items. All right, so for example, Fake Company 1 can have these invoice items within this project, and then so forth with project 2, 3, 4, right? Next up, let's focus on the AR email report, which is here. Same thing as the previous report. The robot reads the data listed on the report line by line as well. Just to clarify, the information gathered here is done at the beginning of the process, along with the invoice report, but for this one, it's stored. It is later used when the robot begins to process the queue items. So within this report, the robot focuses on 3 columns: the name column, the email column, and the CC column. So the robot uses the name column to match the client and project names from the invoice report to find the correct match on the email report. All right, so basically whatever is pulled from this report, so say we pull Fake Project 1 from here, right, along with Fake Company 1, it is then found here based on that information pulled from the invoice report, right? Using the same example, say we find this project, right? The robot will then pull the email from this report and the CC recipients from this line item as well. So now within the code, let's run the process and see it in action. I put a couple breakpoints within the code to stop it at essential parts. So the first part is going to stop right before items are added to the queue, and then we'll proceed from there. And now you can see that the process has been stopped right before items have been added to the queue. Once I hit continue, we would then see items being added to the queue. So let me go ahead and do that. Look in this panel here, see that these 3 items were found within the invoice report and were then uploaded to the queue. All right, and this is the queue name that it was added to. Let's take a brief pause and let's transfer over to our orchestrator and let's view those items within the queue as well. So as you can see, 3 items were uploaded to the queue. We have Fake Project 1, Fake Project 2, and another Fake Project 1. This essentially means that a project of the same name was uploaded, but for a different company. As you can see, when I open up the project, the item details, you can see here we have Fake Company 4, right? But when I open up this one, we have Fake Company 1, right? So there's different items, invoice items being uploaded for different companies, right? So let's continue along with the process, and we're gonna see the first item being processed, which is this one, because you see it's in progress. So again, once I hit continue, the robot's gonna begin to process that first item. I put another breakpoint in the email section, and we're gonna stop before any emails are sent off, just to give you a little explanation of what's going on. So up to this point, the robot began processing that first item within the queue. It noticed that there were two rows that were within the queue for that current item, right? So that means basically for that project there were two invoice items related to it, right? And then from there, it read the HTML email script, which is basically the template file that we send out to clients. And then from there, it initialized all the variables based on the client that it's sending to, right? And then it replaced all those values. So that's what's taking place to this point. The next step would be for the robot to actually check that stored email list that we talked about earlier, which is the email input file, right? So the robot's going to be checking those three columns: the name column, the email column, and the CC column. So let me hit continue, and let's go to the next step. All right. So after that, the robot found the match, right? The robot sent an email for that item. So the robot sent the email item out to the client for that item, right? And then ended that transaction item. And then now it's going to begin again with the next item within the queue, right? And this is going to continue on and on and on until it reaches that last item. So now I'm going to hit continue. We're going to finish out the rest of these items, and then we're going to check the in-process notifications for the clients, for our internal team, and our queue, right? So now we're at the point where we see our internal email set up, right? So we have a air email workflow and a success email workflow, right? For this demo, we're doing our happy path, which is going to be success always, right? So let's go ahead and hit continue. Right, and now the email's been sent off. So let's go check our queue and see all the items that were processed. So now in our queue, you can see that each of our items were processed successfully. So now let's look at the monitoring report, just a view in a dashboard type view. All right, so here's our dashboard for our demo AR notifications queue. You can see that we processed 3 items. They were all successful. You can see our timeline, processing time. This is not accurate because I was pausing while doing this demo, but usually it's going to be shorter than this, right? So we have our queue dynamics, we have unprocessed items. For this example, we didn't have any items that weren't processed. We didn't have any errors. We're not using any SLAs. Yeah, this is essentially our dashboard for our process, right? So now let's take a look at our notifications, right? So here you see 2 examples of our the client emails, right? So you can see here we have fake company 1, right, with a past due invoice for fake project 2. Right, you can see here we have 15 days past due for this invoice. Right, you can see here it's listed here. And going over to our other project, we have fake project 1. Same thing. We have 3 days past due. Let me open up one more. I think it's for a different company. So you can see here, enlarge it for you. This one has a credit memo listed with it. So we have a credit balance, so a negative balance. So you can see here, this is how it handles negative items, right? So here's just a couple different examples of different client emails that we send out. The text is pretty much the same. This grows based on the amount of items that are past due. This list right here. Along with that, these items like the date, the company name, all these generic fields that are essentially variables on runtime, right? So now let's transfer over to our internal company email once the project is finished, right? Here you can see each of the items processed by the robot during runtime. You can see the company and the project associated with the company that was processed as well. Essentially, this gives the reviewer a quick guide to see each of the items that were processed during runtime, right? Along with the actual report. So this is a detailed step-by-step guide of what the robot actually did during the process, right? So just in case any errors happen or anything of that nature, the reviewer will be able to go back and just be able to check and see what actually happened during runtime, right? If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or the admin team to help clarify any of the questions that you may have.